Hello, everyone. This is Claudiu Murgan, the host of the Spiritual Inspire Show. And my guest today is Marie Mbouni. As a child in Cameroon, Africa, Marie felt a call toward healing, a pull toward connection, higher learning, and relating to people on a deep level. Her journey began with Western medicine. After grueling years in medical school, she became an anesthesiologist, hoping to bring the peace and healing she felt called to bring. In time, she had given up personal relationships and her spiritual health, and her mind and body were paying for it. Marie's quest for self discovery saved her. She embraced a new calling as a shaman, energy healer, and mentor to others seeking a similar path to enlightenment. Opening herself to the power of the mind, the beauty of intuition, and the all encompassing power of love changed her. She stepped into her destiny as a healer and embraced her potential beyond the confines of the mainstream. Marie, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I mentioned that you were born in Cameroon, and I like to start the conversation with details of your childhood. And to put it into context, I
Mhm.
recently read a fascinating book about the Dagara tribal shamanic experiences. And for
Mm.
those who don't know, Dagara is located in Burkina Faso and Ghana. Were you exposed to something similar in Cameroon?
Well, in my tribe, um, which is in the south of Cameroon, there are many people who are healers, who are shamans, and also I think the most significant event in my life is when I was initiated into Iboga, which is a plant medicine only found in Cameroon and Gabon. And I was 14 years old. So that experience really changed my life and also confirmed what I already knew since I was about 7 years old, that I'm really here to be a healer.
How long did that initiation last?
It was about 3 months. It started because my mother had cancer and she did not want to go through Western medicine. She would have had to have surgery and chemotherapy. And so she turned to Iboga. And when she went to be healed and she sat with the medicine, she was not able to understand what was being said or to really see clearly. And the plant medicine Iboga asked her to bring me. And so that's how it happened. It wasn't actually something that she had intended to happen. And so when I went there, I was initiated and I sat with the medicine for 3 months until my mother healed completely.
Yes, it's very powerful. So again, I know some of these initiations are secret and you are not allowed to share them with anyone else, with outsiders. But have you just taken the medicine then, or alternate between taking the medicine then integrating the messages, or it was something more than that? I like
So,
silent periods and
so the way, so the first time um, I went to the place and it was in ceremony, so with like chants and invocations, a lot of music, African music that is specific to Iboga. And then came a time where it was my turn to take the medicine. And the medicine is actually a bark. It's the bark of the root that is pounded. So it's not water, it's not a liquid. And I had to basically chew that medicine and swallow it. And for those who have ever tasted Iboga, it's really bitter. It's like sawdust, right? It's wood that, so it was intense. and then I sat. And the first thing that happened is I saw my brother who had passed away before I was born. So I
Mm.
had actually never seen him here. And I knew it was him. And so that's how my journey started. And every weekend for 3 months, Saturday and Sunday, I would go there and sit and partake in the medicine, in the ceremony, in the dances, in the chants. Um, yeah.
Beautiful. So, are the effects similar to those of ayahuasca?
Uh, they're a little different. However, it could be compared to ayahuasca. Um, but the mechanism of action is a bit different. Like it's not, it doesn't have a lot of the psychedelic images that you see with
Mhm.
ayahuasca with a lot of colors. Is more of like a black and white TV type of images. And so basically like a movie. I was able to see it became like I had an x-ray vision, like I could see somebody and know exactly what's going on with them. And also I was able to understand things without words, without explanations, um, see the future. I was able to, like, it directed me to get specific plants for my mother. It was like, go to this place, turn left, and you're going to see this bush, pick the leaves from this, boil it for this long, and give that portion to your mother, and she should drink it like 3 times a day. Like, that's how precise and specific it was.
Yeah, it's unbelievable because it's the same. It's a similar story in the book I just mentioned. I read recently, where the shaman was going to the forest, talking to nature, and having all the sick people behind him. And nature will tell him, okay, now you're gonna take this plant or 2 leaves of this plant, you mix them with the other plant, and you give it to the first guy. Then for the second guy, you do this and that. So it's just unbelievable.
It's really really precise. And the when you navigate these experiences, it's so um, it's, you know, it's really undescribable. Like you said, it's like, do this now, take this, do it this way, say this to this person, use these words, use this song, touch this person this way. And yeah, that's because nature really is like an encyclopedia. It's like wisdom keepers. So
Yes,
yeah,
indeed.
that's
Are the boys initiated at the same age?
um yes, it's boys and girls. But this was like I said, it wasn't like a normal initiation at a certain age. I don't know if my mother hadn't been sick, I don't know if I would have necessarily been initiated at that time. But yes, boys and girls. Um, in normal initiations, you know, boys are initiated when they're getting ready to become men, and girls are initiated when they start like having their period, when they, you know, like, yeah.
Yes. And in your tribe, are the males the healers and the medicine keepers, or they share that knowledge with the women, with the elder women in their tribe?
I have to say more men, but women also. Yeah, they
Mhm.
share it, but there are more men than women.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's a fact that the last 50 years and 40 years, the result of colonization in Africa and in Cameroon was affected by that as well. How
Hmm.
did you see those effects, in your tribe and your, you know, world, the beautiful world of Africa?
Yeah. So Cameroon has had a long story of colonization. It started with Portuguese. The word Cameroon actually comes from Camaroes, which is crawfish or shrimp. Um, so Cameroon comes from that because when the Portuguese first arrived, they found this river that had a lot of crawfish. And after that, it was the Germans. And many, many years later, there are a lot of elders in Cameroon who only spoke German because that's a lot of buildings that were still really, really beautiful with, German architecture and work ethics. And then after the war, things were re-divided. And so Cameroon became a French and British colony, 70% French and 30% British. So I'm from the French speaking part. So French is my first language, actually. And the French, their mode of colonization was assimilation. So basically, they wanted the people they colonized to become like them, to be like them. That's what assimilation is. So speaking like them, eating like them.
Embracing the religion, I assume.
Yeah, embracing, religions. And so I was raised Catholic. And yeah,
I mean, can
the
you?
independence happened in 1960, but as you know, it's political independence, but the economics of Cameroon are still really tied with France and Great Britain, but
Yes,
mostly France.
but how can you um, reconcile the knowledge you receive during your initiation and afterwards with the Catholic upbringing? I think it's an internal fight from my perspective.
For me, I'm an Aquarian, and uh, I love. I didn't really look at it as a fight. I just looked at it like something more, another
Mhm.
option. But I have to say I'm a rebel, um, because although I was raised Catholic, I rebelled from it because I'm very much into freedom. And I always thought that the way, the mass was conducted, we had to read a certain passage of the Bible and only this much. And I love to read it. I was like, why do we have to stop? And why does it have to be this chapter today? Those kind of questions. But I want to go a little deeper into your question, which is when you receive different trainings, different orientations, different information, how do you reconcile? And the brain is really powerful. The brain doesn't have a problem with that. Usually it's the people, it's the social, it's the, if we let anything come in, it just takes another spot in our brain. Like there's no compartmentalization, like, oh, you've learned too much, you're done, or this part of your brain is full, so you can't learn anymore. It doesn't work like that. It's us people who bring separation. And I
Yeah.
believe that there is no reason to separate anything that brings elevation, expansion, high vibration. Um, like there's no reason to separate that. So for me, particularly, I didn't feel like it was a problem, but I know people who struggle. Even today, I have friends who, learn about plant medicines and other modalities who are stuck into, what society thinks or what religion thinks, right? So they're not actually able to make empowered decisions coming from the choice from within.
Yes, I don't think it's easy. And the reason I brought it up is because the person who wrote the book was taken away from his family when he was 4 years old. And he
Mm-hmm,
considered all his Jesuit school a brainwash. And he couldn't speak the Dagara language anymore. He came back after
mm-hmm,
15 years and he was considered an outsider. It took him a long time to integrate. When
mm-hmm.
he went through the initiation for 6 weeks, he thought that he's going to die because he wasn't accustomed with the tribal behavior and how he should approach
Yeah.
things in nature. And
Mm-hmm.
even now, he thinks that he doesn't have a home because the tribe sent him out there to represent them, but still he
Yeah.
doesn't feel at home when he comes back at the tribe.
Yeah, I mean, that is a thing that is not just about tribal things or religion. If I take my example, I never really felt that I belong for a very long time because I'm a lifelong intuitive, and I could see things that were not there. I was different, and I loved science fiction. So I was completely different from everybody around me. And I felt like I used to ask myself, how was I born into this place? Because the things that are familiar to me, the things that I love, are not the things that everybody loves. And, but the other thing that, was different for me is that in Cameroon, because of how, I talked about this assimilation. So tribes and cultures were not very, um, how do I say this? It was a little dissolved, right? It was a little dissolved, so it was a little more lax. Um, and, but I understand how, there could be this isolation when you're different, and this place where you don't belong anywhere. um it's it's something that happens a lot, but I wanted to bring the point that it's not just in those instances.
Mhm.
It's very common, and I feel for that person because um when, like, when I was born, things had already happened. Like, it was already independent, uh, and everybody was embracing the French culture. Um, so it wasn't like, maybe if it was earlier, like if I was born much earlier, it wouldn't have been the same story, right?
Yes.
It could have been like, I'm a traitor, or I don't respect the traditions, or I'm not really a part of. That would have been my story. But I was born much later, where things were a little more relaxed. Um, but the other thing I want to say is that, honestly, I didn't, at that time I was still going to the church, but I didn't go and say, oh, this is what I do on weekends. I never brought it up because it was so intense, and also I was discovering all these things, the way the universe works, that I couldn't even put into words, that I couldn't explain because I was so young. And so I never said anything. Maybe if I had, said something, I would have been asked never to come to church again, or maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, they have
But
banned you.
yeah, for sure. Because the thing about certain religions is really, I mean, this is my opinion, is that there is not a lot of freedom to think, a lot of freedom to experiment, to explore, to be empowered. It's, you have to be this way, you have to believe these things. And so which is why I left the church. When I was 18, I was like, I can't do this, because I don't feel free. I don't feel free.
Yeah.
um,
And your understanding goes beyond of what they teach at the church. I mean,
exactly.
you are beyond what the priests know, and your understanding goes beyond that, or theirs. So
Exactly. And having been with plant medicine and experienced the wisdom of nature, of the universe, of the cosmos, it was like, why do I need somebody between me and higher power and God? Like, why? I could just talk to him or her, right? So that's where I was. So for me, um yeah, I had no choice but to free myself.
yeah.
And the other thing is that because I'm so intuitive, like I would be in a sermon and I would know that this priest didn't maybe prepare it well. And I would feel like, why do I have to sit here and, like, they didn't take the time, or I would want to go deeper into the mystery, into the scripture, and it wouldn't be offered. And so I always felt like I wasn't getting enough. Like I really wanted this deep connection with the divine that I wasn't finding.
Interesting. Um, do you practice a specific type of shamanism, and are the plant medicine involved, or is the plant medicine involved?
So so I use plant medicines. There are so many plant medicines. I facilitate plant medicine ceremonies, and I, also give myself plant medicine ceremonies depending on what I need or what I feel. Um, so I don't want to say I practice like a specific type of shamanism, because I have learned many different types. So I just incorporate or use whatever is needed at the moment. Um, I use, not in America, because in America, a lot of these plant medicines are illegal. So I
Yes.
don't use them in America. I go outside of the country. I just wanted to mention that first so everybody knows I respect the law.
Yes, I know. I was knocking at your door. Yeah.
So, I sit with ayahuasca, grandmother ayahuasca, psilocybin, cacao, which is a heart opener, and iboga. Very rarely, like iboga is very powerful, so I don't just offer it to anyone. It has to be somebody who is really advanced and they have done the work, and so cacao is really powerful in opening the heart. One of the things I've noticed is that a lot of people who come to me or to retreats that I see are not connected to their heart. They don't love themselves. They, disconnected. And when you're disconnected, you cannot access your innate wisdom. You cannot access what your soul really calls, for you to experience or to bring forth. So I use that. And psilocybin is really great. The way I think psilocybin is like it opens portals to other worlds, within and without. Um, it's a great medicine, and yeah.
And how do you offer the cacao? Is just the leaf? They chew on the leaf, or is something else?
So cacao is actually a fruit, right? It's a fruit. Uh, it has an outside shell, and inside you have um, uh, how do you call that
The
in
seeds?
English? Yes, seeds. That's it. So it's like a pod with seeds, and these seeds when you use ceremonial cacao is what I use. This is not chocolate, like Nestle, or it's like it's cultivated and harvested in a sacred way, and then it's dried and ground into a powder. And this, or some people have like chunks, blocks, bars, discs. And so you take this cacao, whatever form you have, and you bring, everything into sacred space. You can say a prayer, an intention, um, light a candle, basically whatever makes you feel like you're in sacred space. And then you prepare the brew. It's a brew. So you have cacao, you add water, usually some spices like cinnamon or canela, people call it like that, and some cayenne pepper, some
Mm-hmm.
capsaicin to really bring the flavor. And that's how you do that. Uh, it's bitter actually, like cacao, so people will add either dates or honey or agave to make it a
Mm-hmm.
little sweet. Not too sweet. It has to keep a little bit of bitterness, because that's what really wakes you up. That's what opens the heart. And it's a very powerful medicine. It has something called theobromine, and theobromine can accelerate the heart rate. So, you want to make sure that your heart is okay, or you take a smaller dose. And then when the cacao is ready, you go into the space that you have prepared, usually a room, and people are sitting around. And then you bless the cacao, depending on your tradition. You connect the elements, the directions, the medicine wheel, and then you 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 cleanse or sage, or make sure that there's nothing negative around the cacao. And then you serve everybody, and you have people hold their cup to their heart while you call the spirit of cacao. Cacao has been called the goddess of the jungle, the heart
Yes.
opener. And then everybody, with their eyes closed, they bring their intention, and you call cacao, and then you all drink together and you sip. And while that's happening, I'll usually, drum or sing or chant. um, so that's a basic cacao ceremony. It
Beautiful.
could be like bigger, with like movement, uh, beautiful music, dance, singing, uh, really beautiful.
So it's an interactive experience.
Yes,
How
yes.
often do you organize these retreats?
So it has been a little with COVID, you know.
COVID who?
um, so I just came back from 2 retreats in Mexico. Um, so the last one was in February, and this one was in October. So um, yeah, and it was really, like, logistically, everybody had to take a COVID test, a PCR test first. And then when they arrived, we also did a rapid test. Just because when you have people together, you want to
Mhm.
make sure that, everybody's safe. Um, so that's how we did that. Cacao ceremonies are easy because, it's easy to obtain the medicine and to prepare. So my personal preference would be if I could have a cacao ceremony every month, maybe on the new moon, because the new moon is about, intentionalities and dreams, planting
Yes.
seeds. So ideally, I would have a cacao ceremony every new moon. I've been
Yeah.
actually thinking about, starting to do that virtually since we're still in lockdown. Maybe, having everybody prepare their cacao and, doing that together online. I think, yeah, that's a good idea.
See,
I
that's
think I'm going to
reflective
start doing
talking.
that.
You talk to me and you just decided to do it. That's good.
Yeah.
I saw a picture of you holding a snake. How is that integrated with your ceremonies?
Mm. The snake is powerful medicine. Snake in shamanism is actually called the serpent, is about transformation. It's about shedding, what doesn't serve you, where maybe you have become, something has kept you small. And it's about shedding in a smooth, harmonious way. When the snakes shed the skin, they're not fighting, it just comes, maybe they find two tree trunks and they just go between and the skin just comes off. That's my ideal way of, transformation, because a lot of people can suffer, or, the shadow part of them comes up. And, for me, it was big medicine because growing up in Cameroon, Africa, a lot of snakes are venomous. So I was really, really afraid of snakes, because we were taught, you see a snake, you run, because, you know, like you can pass in a few hours. That's how venomous they are. Like the mamba, the vipers, they're just like deadly, right?
Yeah.
So that was a deep fear in me. And one of the practices I have is that every year I do something that scares me. Every year I try to do something I'm really, really afraid of. 1 year I uh, climbed up a 35-foot telephone pole.
Wow.
And it took me, like when I got to the top, it took me about 5 minutes to bring my second foot on top of the pole, because the pole is like, it's not stable, right? It's like wood. So when you're on top, it's like moving. I thought I was going to die. But, I had a harness, but still that, fear. And so, and when I started, learning about the power of transformation, and when you see snakes, it's in every culture. In medicine, the caduceus, right, that symbol has two
Yes.
snakes. The kundalini energy in the spine, the snake coiled, at the beginning of your spine, or your tailbone, I should say. So it's the symbology. And also, the other part is that in the Catholic Church, the snake is bad. It's the sin, it's the,
Yes.
you know,
The bad
uh,
connotation. Yeah.
temptation or whatever. And so it was like, wow, it was big for me. Um, like understanding that it is a mythology. Like it wasn't really like a real snake that had an apple, but when I was a kid I believed that literally, right? But
Yes.
it's not reality. It wasn't some snake and an apple. It's just representation of
Symbolism.
something,
Yes. Yeah.
symbolism, right? That's the right word. So it was like a way for me to release all those beliefs, all those fears that came from things that were not real. And so that photo was taken in Bali, and it was also a way for me to you know to to express where I am. And even if everybody that sees a snake doesn't necessarily love, it will evoke either fear or disgust or love or interest, or right, like it's a powerful image. So so I was in Bali facilitating a retreat, and I wanted to have a photo shoot because it's such a beautiful place. And so the photographer was like, "Oh, you know, there's a snake here." The person had a snake uh, model or actor or whatever you want to call it. Like the snake is just there for shoots, and I was like, "Oh no, I can't, I can't." I had never touched a snake before that photo. I had never been close to a snake before that photo. But the minute I thought about it, it was like, okay, this is my chance to do something I'm afraid of. This is my chance to really let go of, you know, these unfounded fears. And the snake's name is Sarah.
Wow.
And so, so it took a lot of courage, and so I was able to be with the snake. And what I noticed is within myself how much judgment there is about this poor animal who didn't do anything to anyone, right?
Yes.
And I just went into compassion and asking forgiveness, you know, and noticing how I myself was judging. And I started thinking, where is this judgment bleeding into my life? Where do I judge things that I don't even know because I don't understand? So it was like the beginning of another powerful practice where I started noticing anytime I judged. And when I touched it, I just put my hand out and it just came on my hand because, you know, like they're very lazy and it actually fell asleep. Like if you're not moving, it just falls asleep. I was like, how is this even possible? I was so afraid. And so I spent a lot of time with Sarah, and she would just like, if I didn't move, it was a she, you know, she went on my head, around my neck, and she was just, you know, being free. It was really powerful.
Yeah, I mean, you look very comfortable in that photo, at least.
Thank
Yeah.
you. It took some work. It took some work.
Yeah.
It was really cathartic and at so many levels because I started questioning, you know, what are other things I'm afraid of that have no basis in reality, and the judgment and the separation and the labeling. Oh, this is bad, this is good. Like who am I? How do I even know?
Yes. And you
And
mentioned reality.
yeah.
What's your relationship with magic?
Oh, I'm a magician. You want to hear something funny?
Please.
So my website, when I decided that I'm gonna create, you know, a real website, my only criteria was that I wanted it to be magical. I wanted it to be a portal into my world. And so, you know, some people recommended these people who are like brand, whatever, you know, brand experts. And so I started having a talk with the website designer, and he was talking about I don't even know what. And so I said, I want my website to be magical. And I just saw his eyes glaze over. Like, what is that? And I said, I want it to be a portal into my world. I want somebody who comes in my website to feel my energy. I want them, I don't want it to be some generic, you know, like cookie cutter website. I mean, what's the point? Right?
Yes.
But then when I saw their reaction, I was like, you're not my person. And so I fired them. I was like, no, I'm your client. And so I found my person really magical. So all this on the website was literally like I would just go in meditation, and you know, like what color came, and all that was through meditation, what my soul really wanted, what, you know, I wanted it to be. So I love magic. And there's this quote, you know, from Alice um, in the rabbit hole. What's the name of that book?
Um,
Alice in Wonderland.
and this, yes, sorry.
Okay. And there's this quote where it says, everybody wants a magical solution to their problems, but nobody believes in magic.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I love magic. Um, I think, we all have the potential to be magicians, to be creators. If you're a creator, you're a magician. If you bring something that has never existed into existence, it's magic.
Yes. What's your relationship with water?
Oh, water is big. What is big for me? So it's actually very interesting. Like, as you know, I was born in, Cameroon, the southern part, which is the rainforest, right? So there are no big bodies of water where I was born. And when I moved to the United States, I've always been close to the ocean. And I discovered that I have such a deep connection to the ocean. Um, I go and I meditate with the ocean. I dance with the ocean. I do ceremony with the ocean. And what I started noticing is that the ocean responds. The ocean communicates. And you know, one of my collaborative book, the new feminine evolutionary, I talk about renewing our cycles, right? Because everything has cycles: the moon, the sun, the seasons, our body, like everything is moving.
Yeah.
And so when they invited me to write a chapter, I was like, I don't really know what I want to write about. And I went to the ocean and started meditating. And then I had this, I had renewing our cycles. And it was talking about the womb and things like that. And I was like, whoa, I don't know if I can talk about that. And I was like, um, I want a sign.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ocean was like, okay, stand up and start walking. And so I was walking and it was like, look down. And about like 5 feet away, I found this huge algae, seaweed in the shape of a womb. It was like 5 meters long. Like there's a picture in the book. Literally, it was like a womb with like fallopian tubes. So I was like, okay, this is a sign that I cannot ignore. And, going deeper within ourselves, water is life. We're 80% water in our body. Water conducts, energy, electricity, thoughts, intention. So it's really big. Everybody knows about, water experiments, intention experiments. Um, the brain, for those who are science geeks, like if you dehydrate it even 25%, your brain stops working at full capacity. Like everything is affected by water.
Yeah. If water disappears, we disappear
Yeah,
as well. Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
water is life. So my sign is Aquarius, which is an air sign. However, it is the water bearer.
Interesting.
Yeah, so right, isn't it interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder why it is the water bearer and yet it's an air sign. So I love water. I'm afraid of the ocean. I really respect it a lot. It's so vast. It's like wisdom. It's depth. It's the void. It's so I really respect it. I don't play with it. Um,
So maybe your next trial is to swim with the whales or with the dolphins.
oh, I did one thing, which is during one of my travels in Thailand, I snorkeled in the middle of the ocean. But somebody was holding my hand. But I really thought that I was going to die too. But it was like, I'm really afraid of this. But I also knew that I'm not going to die, even if I had a life vest. And yeah, and the other thing that happens is that when I meditate, when I'm on journey, I'm always diving with dolphins and whales. And I talk about it so much that one of my friends actually thought I'm a diver. And then one day she was like, "Oh, we should go and dive." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, but we need lessons." And then she came to visit me. And like I said, I live close to the ocean, and we went to the beach. And she was a lifeguard, like she's a great swimmer. But when we went inside the ocean, she noticed that I wasn't going deep. And she's like, "Aren't you coming?" I was like, "I need to touch the ground." And she said, "But you always talk about diving with dolphins."
Yes,
I
but
was like, "Yeah, in my
not on my
journeys
own.
and meditations." So one of the things I really want to do is, learn how to swim enough to dive and be able to be with dolphins. And
Yeah, so
I don't know
next
when that
year.
will happen. Next year?
Yeah.
Well, I have to take swimming lessons, which are not happening right now, but it's a good dream. It's a good dream, maybe by the end of the year. Yeah. Um, that's one thing I really want to do. Um, I've seen, I've been in a boat with like dolphins around me and all that, but I haven't been inside the water with them.
Hmm. Marie, why do you think people disregard the fact that they can carry their ancestors' pain or misfortune in this lifetime?
I think it's because they are never told about that possibility. And, many people are not even connected to their own bodies, like because we do carry our own trauma and we carry our ancestors' trauma. So they're not even connected to that. So it's really, people have become very, very distanced from anything that connects them within. We have so many distractions: Netflix, alcohol, drugs, chocolate, sex, whatever. We numb ourselves, we blind ourselves. And so the other thing is that, there's the pervasive culture that says that you can only believe that which you see, that which you can touch, that which is proven in a double blind, placebo, controlled, random trial, whatever, right?
Yes.
So people have come to believe that, forgetting that, a lot of the scientific experiments that are taken are about things that already exist or things that are already understood. So it's just about proving. It's not about discovering. It's not about exploring. It's not about imagination, which we have lost. We have truly lost our imagination. And I'm a medical doctor, I'm scientific, and the way experiments are conducted is uh, basically something like, I want to prove that this is yellow. You know that it's yellow, but you want to prove it. So I'm going to take things that are orange and other that are yellow, and then I'm going to compare them. And then the conclusion I'm going to come to about is that it is yellow. So you already know where you're going, and you're just trying to find a way to prove that where you're going is the right way, and and a lot of things that have not been proven yet is because we don't have the tools, the proper tools to measure them. When I went into medical school, I learned many things that today are wrong. Like if I did them today, I would be sued for malpractice. But when I was in medical school, they were true, scientifically proven.
Wow.
And you look at history, before we had a microscope, we didn't know that bacteria existed. Before we had electron microscopy, we didn't know viruses existed because we couldn't see them. But then when we had the proper equipment, then it was like, oh, there are viruses. Look at the particles of matter. We only knew the atom, but now we are down, down, down to microparticles, quanta, right? But before we had that, we didn't know. It's the same with energy. One of the things that I really, and actually, I'm going to do this, I'm going to create a project about this. It's like energy intelligence, other senses intelligence, because we only use 5 senses and we have others, right? And so, because people cannot see, they cannot touch, they cannot feel, it is really easy to discard, to discount, things that are intangible, things that they cannot see. And but it is real. It is real. And actually, science is starting to catch up, and it has been shown that, with the science of epigenetics,
Yes.
like we carry information in our DNA from the environment, from your ancestors. Like, it's starting to be proven now. The gut is one of the places where we really store a lot of these memories. So it's catching up, and people are starting to discover that it's real.
Yeah, Dr. Bruce Limpton is one who is
It's
very
like,
vocal
yeah,
in this direction. Yes.
absolutely. Yeah.
And one of the best equipment we have is our body, but we have to fine tune it in order to understand
we
these
we have to connect
energies. Yeah.
to it. And a lot of people are fully disconnected, not grounded, not in their bodies. And that is the first step, to connect to your body, to stop judging your body, and to listen, because the body talks to us minute by minute, second by second. It's giving you information.
Yes.
Sometimes it gets loud. Like, if you eat something that your body doesn't like, it's like, roar. Like, it's telling you, I don't like this.
Yeah. And along the same lines, is soul restoration about enticing your soul to come back to your body?
What did you say? I'm sorry.
Is soul restoration about enticing your soul to come back from someone who is totally disconnected from his soul or her soul?
Mm, I don't know if it's the word enticing, because your soul always wants to be with you. It always wants that. But it is us, for whatever reason, trauma, disconnection, that are not opening the way for the soul to come back. And in shamanism, you have this practice called soul retrieval, where we can go and call your soul back. But basically, it's just making a way for it to come back. It's because it's always there for you.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't use the word entice, but it's a very powerful, powerful practice, because every time we have trauma, we lose a little bit of our soul. Every time we have trauma, it's one of the beliefs of shamanism. Like, you lose your soul every day a little bit, depending on what's going on. And a lot of people have, childhood is when we experience a lot of trauma. And so it's like, usually it takes people a long time to actually recover from the traumas of childhood. And trauma doesn't mean, you were abused or beaten or yelled at. It could, it's like a lot of misunderstandings, a lot of assumptions, because, you know, children's minds are inductive, right? So everything that they hear or they see, they accept as absolute truth. They cannot deduce, they cannot analyze or things like that. So that's why we have trauma, and it is really good to heal that part of you. Like, that's usually a big part of the soul that we lose. Our power, our voice, um, our hearts get wounded a lot in childhood.
Yeah, indeed. Can you please expand a bit on the 5 ninja skills that can enhance one's meditation practice?
You mean that blog?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. So I mean, I don't know if I can I talk about stealth and you know um
Sorry, I put you on the spot.
yeah, no, I wrote that blog a long time ago. So I like to bring other things to help people understand, other imagery or practices or, um, techniques that can make people lose or release the judgments about meditation. Because sometimes people think that meditation is about, not thinking or not um, having thoughts. So, so what I noticed starting with myself is that when I was starting to, I think I've been meditating my whole life, but I wasn't calling it meditation. I was calling it like daydreaming or being alone. But the first thing that, when people are in ninja school, the first thing they do is learn about themselves, right? Knowing yourself. So knowing if you're easily distracted, or if your body cannot sit still, or if your knees hurt, for example, don't sit with your legs crossed, right? And this principle is the principle of spiritual refinement. Like a lot of ninja people, when they first go, they learn about themselves, their inner strengths, their experiences. So you figure out, what are you good at? If you're good at, staying awake during the morning, meditate during the morning. If you only have time at night, but you're really tired from a long day, it's not going to happen. So modify your day to, make sure that you incorporate the practices that go with who you are. And the other practice that they do in ninja school, in ninjitsu, is disguise and impersonation, right? So why do I talk about this in meditation? It's because usually when you meditate, you start to see yourself, your real self. But it also helps you, start to shift your perspective, the way you think, maybe putting yourself in somebody else's shoes, right? So just like when, you in ninjitsu, in ninja school, you learn how to assume people's identity. Maybe, usually they wear like um, uh, uh,
A mask,
eye
or yeah, eye
eye
cover.
mask.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you start to learn that, and that will also help you accept change. Because when you meditate, and you start to release all beliefs, it is crucial that you accept change, because it's only when you accept change that, number one, you can take responsibility, and number two, you can release resistance, right? Because the first thing the brain does whenever there is possibility of change is that it goes into resistance. So with that, and the other thing I was talking about was stealth, right? Um, so when in ninjutsu, you really want to be like silent, right? Even when you look at ninjas, even if they jump and they land, it's like they don't make a noise.
Yes.
So when you're going to start meditating, you want stealth and entering, because you want silence, right? You have to learn how to create space for yourself to be in silence. And the easiest way to do is like turn off your phone, right? And on your computer, turn off notifications. Like something that sometimes I forget to do is I open WhatsApp on my computer, and I still don't know how to turn the notifications off. And all of a sudden I'll hear ding, whenever there's a message that comes. So turn off your phone, um, you know, shut down your computer. You don't even have to shut it off. You can just like close it if it's a laptop. Um, for people who watch TV, I don't watch TV. Um, turn off your TV, and so when you do that, you're gonna have that silence. And the other part is you want to make sure that you'll be able to sit comfortably, and sometimes you want to have a little bit of movement, maybe stretching, um, you know stretching your body to make sure that your ligaments or your muscles are supple, so that suppleness will allow you to sit a little longer. And if it's not possible, then you find an alternative. Like my knees don't work well with sitting cross-legged, right? So I will have my knees, my legs straight, and I like to have pillows behind my back, because that helps me keep my back straight. If I don't have pillows behind my back supporting me, then I'm like slouching, or, I have to like stretch my back. So I already know that, which comes from, that principle that we first started, which is about knowing yourself. Um, and the other principle is strategy, right? Strategy. Um, in ninjutsu, you don't just attack, crazy or blindly. You wanna study your enemy. You wanna set goals, and you wanna practice, and you wanna set your timing. So you use the same thing in meditation. So you set your goals. It could be, I'm going to meditate every Monday at 8 o'clock for 10 minutes. And that way you can evaluate. That's why you set goals. So if you sit, and after 5 minutes, you like thinking about your dinner and whatever, it's like, oh, okay, I can be okay for 5 minutes, but after that, it really gets hard. And so at the 5 minutes mark, you can start to practice, the silence and, the suppleness, so that maybe you can reach 7 minutes. And the last 3 minutes, probably you're just going to be fighting with yourself. But it's okay, because you already know that, you know, this is where it gets hard. This is where I need to practice. And when you do that, you can bring creativity, innovation in your meditation. Maybe the last 3 minutes that are hard, you can do a visualization instead of just like monastic meditation where you're trying to, empty your mind. Maybe you can bring a mantra because you're saying something, I'm lovable or whatever it is, right? I'm safe. So you start bringing that so that you can do your 10 minutes, even if it's not exactly how you wanted it to be. uh, the fifth thing is concealment, escape. Ninja in ninjutsu, it's really beautiful to see how um, they they come, they enter, they come out. So to continue with the example that I was giving you about doing 10 minutes meditation, and after 6 minutes you're dying, you want to itch, you want to sneeze, or you start hearing all the cars outside, like everything just comes. Know when to quit. This is a principle of escape and concealment. Know what, if the being creative didn't work, you try to do a mantra and you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm so hungry, I want tea, I want to go now. It's okay. Know when to retreat, but also observe yourself, right? Like, does it become a pattern? Like every time it's 6 minutes, you want to quit, or is it different every time? And that's when you start making adjustments. That's when you start growing. Um, and the other thing about um, escape and concealment is that a lot of ninjutsu is practiced in nature. You always see like beautiful landscapes. And so nature is your friend. If you don't know, um, it is hard for you to meditate, just go outside. Look at the sky. Look at, clouds. You're going to immediately be inspired. Feel the sun on your skin. Go and listen, to the birds, or if you're in a city, go on a park, maybe there's a tree where you are, just look at the bark of a tree and you're going to be inspired. You're going to start to think outside of yourself. Instead of thinking about the problems that you have, you're going to start thinking about nature, the nature of humanity, unity, oneness. You start to be one with nature. So that really helps a lot. So those are the things that, if they come from my own practice, when I observe how uh, easy or hard it is to meditate, um, depending on what I'm going through. Like if I'm, doing something, like I'm writing, maybe I'm writing an article, or I have to come up with content, then my brain is very active, right? And when I want to meditate, I keep thinking about it, like, oh, I could write that. So it's like, oh, okay, meditation is not working. Then I go outside,
Yeah.
because it's not going to work. Retreat. And then I go outside, I walk on the grass barefoot, and that immediately drops me in, because when you're in nature, you can't think like that.
Yes, indeed. Thank you
So
very
that's
much.
how you apply that, and you don't fight, with meditation, or like, oh, I can't meditate, I don't know how to do it. You start to understand that it's a process, it's dynamic.
Yeah. Thank you, Marie. We are towards the end of our interview. So, what can you tell us about your courses? What are you doing these days?
Mm. So right now, I am creating a course. This course is it's for women. Uh, and it was inspired by me. A lot of the things that I do just come from my own life. And this is about, high achiever women, professional women, business owners who are really in their masculine, like I was, and stuck in the awakening process of spirituality. A lot of people start the spiritual journey, but they're stuck in the awakening and they're not progressing. So it's really about reclaiming woman, reclaiming, becoming magnetic and embodied goddess. and it's going to be a 12-week course. It's going to be starting in about 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know when your podcast comes out. I don't have the exact date. So that's what I'm working on right now, and I'm really, really passionate about it. Um, and the other thing that I'm now going to work on that came on through the show is doing a new moon cacao ceremony.
I'm so glad it
Yeah,
came to the show.
virtually. So it's going to come out. And then the last part is I'm developing a course that I'm calling Sacred Ceremony. It's going to be a ceremony. I don't want to call it certification yet, but what I notice is that there is such a calling for people to be in ceremony, and so people are starting to do it without any training, without knowing how to handle energy, how to, hold space,
Yes. Yeah.
how to, and and it's 444 right now. So I've been called to create a curriculum that can support people in starting to do their ceremony in a way that has integrity,
Yes. You cannot
and
be a
that it's
curandero without a specific training, or it takes time also. Yeah.
yeah. And this is not about giving somebody ayahuasca, right? Because we don't want that. But people are doing like cacao ceremonies, they're doing, maybe having a little bit of psilocybin or things like that, and it's not, people are just left.
Yeah.
And so instead of just letting it, it's like there is space for people to at least learn the fundamentals of holding sacred space, of, creating rituals, of holding a safe ceremony for people.
And showing respect at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that idea just came through also. Uh, so I don't know when the course is coming out, but I just started. So if you were holding ceremony, like what would you want to know?
If I have to open the circle, what type of spirits do I have to invoke? If it's safe for me to do it, if I'm clean enough to do it, if I prepare myself ahead of time to cleanse my body, and then what tools do I need to do that particular invocation?
Mm-hmm,
Um, and then can I help those in the circle? Do I have the skills to help them
mm-hmm,
um, during the ceremony and after to integrate their messages?
mm-hmm,
And then what do I have to do at the end? Do I have to close the circle? And also, in my experience, we have to ask permission to work the land. So we have to offer something to the spirits of the land in order to be
mm-hmm.
allowed to work the land.
Mm, beautiful. I love that. It will be included.
Marie, thank you very much for your time. It's been wonderful. Um, I wish you the best with the ceremonies and the courses.
Thank
Uh,
you. Thank you. Thank you. I
and
really,
please go
yeah, it
ahead.
was a true pleasure to have this conversation with you. You're a great, great host, great interviewer. You really brought so
Thank you.
much to light.
Thank you. And to my viewers and subscribers, please share this video, subscribe if you haven't done so, and you can go to my Patreon account where I provide exclusive content. Until next time, love and gratitude.